Ladies and gentlemen, your sweet Zionist prince, white colonizer, coming to you live from an undisclosed location. The Arab world is posturing to deflect Donald Trump's plan of actually helping Gaza change. And who's taking the main part in it? Egypt. So let's take a look a little bit at what's going on right now. So you may not be able to tell what's going on, but there's a scene here, the Egyptian army with tanks in the Sinai Peninsula, breaking the peace treaty between Israel and Egypt. They are amassing a quite large amount of tanks at the moment. They've also come out with propaganda videos showing their military presence in the Sinai Peninsula and their ability to jump out of planes with ultralights and zip around a la Hamas October 7th style paragliders. So here's the glorious Egyptian army made up of a very competent nation of people with a very competent army. If you don't know what sarcasm is, I suggest you research that now before watching this video. So here's Egypt with its little tank parade. We've got another clip here. This is from Middle East Eye, the Hamas's Al Jazeera wing of propaganda. So you can see a bunch of tanks being sent out to the Sinai Peninsula here, to the border of Israel and Egypt. Very, very good, powerful sign on Egypt's side. We're going to break down and analyze exactly what's going on in a moment here. I'm going to give some better commentary on this. But just for you guys to understand, let's watch this clip one more time. Egypt, at the moment, desperately needs to save face. Egypt, unlike most countries in the Middle East, at least the Arab nations, has, for lack of better terms, been absolute pussified. They have never had a backbone in the Israel-Palestine fight. They got their ass kicked multiple times during war with Israel, and then they had to make peace. And what did they do with the Sinai Peninsula? As somebody who traveled through the Sinai Peninsula not too long ago, and went to Cairo, I can tell you that there were highways in the Sinai Peninsula we couldn't take because ISIS had overrun them to drive to Cairo. So the Sinai Peninsula became a hotbed not just for ISIS terrorists, but for, unfortunately, Hamas to shuffle weapons in and out of Gaza through the Rafah border crossing and the Philadelphia border. You may be wondering what is in Egypt's interest to deflect in this manner and potentially aggravate Israel into a war. One, Egypt knows damn well it will not go to war with Israel. One, it can't handle it. It literally will not be able to handle it. We would decimate Egypt's ultralight Air Force in 30 seconds. And when I say we, I mean the Israeli Air Force. I obviously have no part in that. But Egypt's military would be destroyed in moments. It wouldn't take much time. I keep seeing these tweets and stuff on Twitter from Arab supremacists who are like, this isn't like 67. Egypt, it's not the nation that will get bullied by Israel. Listen here and listen clear, ladies and gentlemen. Egypt's population has grown like tenfold since 67. Egypt is akin to India in the sense of there is a giant wealth disparity problem there. The rich population does not give a fuck about the country. It stole most of the money through rich politicians and corruption, and now either hides that money in foreign banks abroad or in untouchable locations where the general populace can't touch. And then you have a non-existent middle class, and then you have a lower class that runs the entire country or the streets, let's just say. Egypt does not look like a functioning country when you go there in any shape or form. It is made up of a society of extremely anti-Semitic, extremely racist people who are racist internally and externally to other Arabs in the region and to themselves, and especially to their neighbors in North Africa and then their southern African neighbors like Sudanese, Somalian, and Ethiopians. Very fragmented society that does not have the moral and I would say integral drive to fight a war with Israel in any way, shape, or form. If you think that random Egyptians off the streets of Cairo are going to get on Madim, are going to get on uniform and fight a war with Israel for the sake of what? After Lebanon got its ass kicked, Syria got its ass kicked, Gaza got its ass kicked, the West Bank got its ass kicked, Yemen got its ass kicked. Iran got its ass kicked by Israel. If you think the Egyptians are going to be running to stand in line and say, I salute the Egyptian nation, I'm ready to fight for Egypt, you've got another thing coming. Egyptians are overwhelmingly poor at the moment, overwhelmingly oppressed, okay, and frustrated, I would say, with the general state of their country and with the general state of the Arab world. So we won't be seeing an Egypt that's going to be running to war with Israel, but they have to prostrate to save face in front of the Arab world. So let's take a look here at this little article. This is from AP. Egypt is developing a plan to rebuild Gaza without forcing Palestinians out of the Strip, in a counter to President Donald Trump's proposal to depopulate the territory so the U.S. can take over. Egypt's state-run Al-Ahram newspaper said that the proposals call for establishing secure areas within Gaza where Palestinians can live initially while Egyptian and international construction firms remove and rehabilitate the Strip's infrastructure. Do not be confused. The only reason Egypt is offering something like this is because, and we know this has been talked about many times, I'm not going to be somebody who's inventing the wheel here and telling you a truth that you've never heard before. The Arabs have to do this right now, whether they're in Saudi or in the Emirates or in Bahrain. Unfortunately, I would say the good Arabs at the moment in the Gulf, even they have to be a part of this. They can't go down without at least a moral fight for this one last thing that would actually bring peace in the region, solving the Israel-Palestine conflict. The Arab nations do not want a real solution to the Israel-Palestine conflict. They have an interest to keep the blame on Israel so they can hopefully one day unleash their eternal goal of bringing an end to the Zionist entity, this ridiculous goal that's always brought shit back into their face, that's never ever worked out in their favor. And again, Egypt is doing all this just to save face in the Arab world, to gain some respect points for other Arabs in the region, even though it has none, because one, it got its ass kicked so hard in 1967, and in every other war before that, it had to make a peace treaty with Israel brokered by America, and it has done literally nothing for the Palestinian cause, literally nothing for Palestinians, other than supply them with weapons for October 7th, which ended up really bad for Gaza and for Palestinians generally, and put up barricades to block their own Gazan Arab brothers and sisters out. So just keep in mind, Egypt's got it's in the shits right now. Egypt is not doing very well, at least not in its status in the Arab world, and it really cares about its status in the Arab world. Egyptian officials have been discussing the plan with European diplomats, as well as with Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates, according to two Egyptian officials and Arab Western diplomats. They're also discussing ways to fund the reconstruction, including an international conference on Gaza reconstruction, said one of the Egyptian officials and the Arab diplomats. So they're basically going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars putting together a stupid conference where all these Arabs from around the world who don't give a fuck about Gaza have to fly in, eat a nice meal, talk for a few moments, and then establish that they want to continue the status quo, which is to keep the Gaza issue going, to keep blaming Israel for all their problems and America for all of their problems, and never progress the Middle East into a future where we can all live and prosper. And again, I'm not necessarily a fan of the Trump Gaza deal. I've said this multiple times on here. I don't like the reality. It's hard for me to ingest the reality that we'll have to say goodbye to Gazans from Gaza. I like the idea of us having and forming a peace with the Gazans and living side by side with them. But at the moment, without Trump's deal, there's literally no other creative alternative. Like, Egypt just wants to continue the status quo. Their plan to rebuild Gaza will continue the status quo. Hamas will be in power. There will be no difference. No difference from right now. The officials and diplomats spoke on a condition of anonymity because the proposal is still being negotiated. The proposal comes after an international uproar over Trump's call for the removal of Gaza's population of some 2 million Palestinians. Trump said the United States would take over Gaza and rebuild it into a Riviera of the Middle East, though Palestinians would not be allowed back. That's also not true. He said that only at the moment. He's clarified that deal a few times, so this is not true on the part of the AP. He said multiple times that the Palestinians who want to leave, those are the ones who would be ushered out first. And then obviously you'd have to imagine there would be some sort of small battle or war fought with the remaining Palestinian population that wants to be on the side of Hamas. But anybody who wants out would be allowed first, not forcing anybody out. Okay, that would be the first step. And there's been multiple talks of allowing people to come back, since this won't be necessarily a American territory. This is going to be an international zone on the part of Trump. This intro to the article literally tells you everything you need to know. Egypt's Al-Ahram newspaper said the proposal is designed to refute American President Trump's logic and counter any other visions or plans that aim to change the geographic and demographic structure of the Gaza Strip. Because Gazans, no matter what... So here's some things to qualify in the Arab world just to understand the logic behind the pro-Palestine, free Palestine movement. There are no other important people in any other conflict on planet Earth other than the Gazans, other than the Palestinians. There could quite literally be millions of people dying on every border of Gaza, and there quite literally are. If you look north, west, east, south, no matter which direction you look, from Gaza, there are people dying in conflicts way worse than Gaza, genocides way worse than Gaza, that don't get a single dip-inch, small touch of publicity the way that Gaza does. Okay, so they have no interest when it comes to that to let go of that. And of course, there are no more holy people, no more amazing demographic than the Palestinians, and there should be no human beings allowed to live in Gaza Strip, no matter how many different civilizations inhabited that place other than the Arabs, than the Gazans. There shall be no Jews allowed to live in Gaza, even though that's kind of apartheid, even though Jews inhabited that place. No Phoenicians, no Philistines, no Romans, no Greeks. Nobody is allowed to live in Gaza other than the Palestinians, who continuously and dedicatedly keep destroying it. The nature, the buildings, the society. No matter how much they continue to fuck up, there shall be no allowing that place to change. No allowing for a better future for Gaza. Last but not least, we'll see what Israel and how Israel is reacting very quietly to these, to these breaks in the UN peace treaty between Egypt and Israel. So Israel's U.S. ambassador on Egyptian military buildup says not tolerable. For the first time, the Israeli official has raised concerns about growing military presence of the Egyptian army in the Sinai Peninsula. Ambassador Yechiel later, in a briefing to Jewish organizations, there are bases being built and they can only be used for offensive operations and offensive weapons. Security experts say tens of thousands of soldiers and dozens of tanks have been deployed. Israel so far refrained from responding to the violation of the Israel-Egypt peace treaty, but on the table, like spoken about many times before, it doesn't seem like it will go down quietly. Now again, Egypt knows very much that Israel will not attack it. Why will Israel not attack it? Israel will not have the permission from America to initiate a war with Egypt. And vice versa, Egypt will not have the approval of America to initiate a war with Israel. It literally will not happen. So all that Egypt is doing here is a small show of force, a small show for the Arab world. Because in the Arab world, truth doesn't matter. Integrity doesn't matter. You could quite literally be barricading your Gazan brothers and sisters, your Muslim brothers and sisters, your Ummah, from entering Egypt and from entering a peaceful zone and from progressing in their lives. You quite literally could be doing that, committing, I don't know what I would say, a genocide, an ethnic cleansing on the Gazans. But that doesn't matter. That truth doesn't matter. As long as you put tanks and weapons and soldiers on the border to show that, hey, we'll stick it to Israel, even though we know there's zero consequences to doing it. Israel's not going to fight Egypt right now. They're not going to initiate a war with Egypt. And America is not going to allow for either one of them to initiate a war. So they know it's all literally just to show save face. It is, I think, representative of Egyptian society at this point, what they are doing on the border. This is just the country that Egypt has become. A soulless, fake nation that is made up of people who are extremely racist, who unfortunately don't have much integrity in their country left. And I want to say, I know that there are Egyptians following me. It's not to you guys, obviously, I'm saying this, but the overwhelming majority of this nation, I apologize, it seems to be a giant failure. It's an experiment that just did not work out. My heart is with the Coptic Christian community. My heart is with the Muslims, the incredible Muslims who live out there, who want peace with Israel, who are looking for peace with Israel, for a better future for Egypt, because imagine what incredible partners we would be. But unfortunately, I know firsthand how deeply rooted and anti-Semitic Egypt is as a nation. When I was there, I had to hide my Jewish identity, not my Israeli identity, my Jewish identity, just because of how anti-Semitic it was. There's a deep-seated problem in Egyptian society, and this is just a show to show you deep down that there's a big problem with this nation, and it's going to take years and decades of fixing to hopefully get through it. I would say it's just as extreme as Gaza in every way, shape, or form. They just don't have an active opportunity to act on it regularly. It is what it is, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully, we will see updates in the near future. Hopefully, a little bit more pressure from the U.S. to tell Egypt to calm the fuck down and stop trying to save face because you look ridiculous. And let's see where all of this goes. That's been me, ladies and gentlemen. Please do support my channel because a lot of these videos do get demonetized. I appreciate you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next one. I love you. A long time. Goodbye, clats. If you believe in my content and want to support me, just know your help is needed. There's a bunch of great ways to support me, being PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, or joining my Patreon community down below. Patreon is the best way to support my channel, and you'll get a bunch of cool perks depending on what tier you join. Another great way to support me is by buying my merchandise on thetravelingclat.com. I regularly drop new merch designs like this beautiful hat or this amazing shirt, where you can support the channel and get something cool for yourself. I also have an amazing Discord community with people from all over the world. Thank you so much for your support.